can't start picking until you learn how to hold the pick. So stay tuned and let me show you how. So today we're going to talk about how to hold the pick and why it's important. But first, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of my videos on how to become a better picker. Now, learning how to hold the pick correctly right off the bat is going to help you avoid developing any bad habits. And it's important because holding the pick correctly allows you to play smoother, faster, and with more confidence. The type of pick we use is way less important than how we hold the pick. There's lots of picks out there, and any of them are fine. But I'd recommend staying away from the really thin ones and getting at least a medium, if not something a little bit heavier. So the key to holding the pick correctly is being relaxed and not having any tension in our hands. And I'm going to show you how to do that. If you take your hand and open it all the way up and let it naturally come to a semi-closed position, just where it naturally wants to relax, you should notice that your thumb comes and rests somewhere on the side of your index finger. These are the only two fingers we're going to use to hold the pick. I see a lot of beginners try to hold the pick with their index and their middle fingers, and this creates a lot of unnecessary tension. So let's start out by letting your hand naturally come to a close and just taking the pick and putting it on the side of your index finger and then putting your thumb right on top of it where it naturally wants to go. So another way to think about this is comparing holding the pick to how we'd hold our house key. So if you have your key handy, grab it and just pretend that you're going to stick it in the lock of the door and notice how you're holding it. You're holding it in a pretty relaxed way on the side of your index finger, and you can just take your pick and replace the key with it, and that's a good starting point. Now let me move the camera a little bit closer and I'll walk you through it again. So start again by just opening your hand and let it naturally start to close. And you'll notice that thumb should go right on the side of your index finger. Okay, and we're going to take the pick, we're going to put it on the first knuckle of our index finger and just gently rest our thumb on top of it. Okay, you'll notice that I have some space between my thumb and my index finger. I don't want to close my hand any because that creates tension, which we're trying to avoid. It's just a naturally relaxed position for our hand. Now, our other three fingers are just kind of here for the ride, and they should just kind of dangle in whatever's comfortable and natural. Now let's talk about how much of the pick we want exposed. We don't want to leave it way out here because that's unstable and it's harder to control, but we don't want to choke up on it too much because then our index finger is going to hit the strings. So we want to leave just enough out to where our index finger doesn't hit the strings, but we have a lot of control with it. Now let me show you what that looks like on the strings. Now here's some things for you to keep in mind when you start picking. You want your other three fingers to be relaxed. You don't want them to be planted firmly on top of the guitar. If anything, you want them to glide on top of the guitar as you start picking up and down the strings. You'll notice as I go to the higher strings, these three fingers follow along. When I go back to the lower strings, they follow. We don't want to plant our fingers on top of the guitar because it creates a lot of unnecessary tension. Now the next thing to keep in mind is how much of the pick we're going to let go inside of the strings. Okay? We really just want to use the very tip of the pick. And if we're picking individual notes, we're really picking in a very, very tiny circular shape on top of the string. Okay? To get started with for now, you can just keep in mind that when we're picking individual notes, we want the pick to be fairly perpendicular, straight up and down to the string. When we start strumming is when we'll put the pick at an angle. And you want to try to use as little of the pick as possible. Just the very tip of the pick is really all we need. When we use the pick for strumming, we need to angle the pick so the pick glides across the strings. And when we do an upstroke, we need to reverse the angle of the pick in order for it to glide across, coming back up. And the way I do that is twisting my whole forearm. I'm not doing anything weird with the wrist. My wrist is staying pretty stationary. So when I come down, I have it angled, the pick angled down, and when I get to the bottom, I take my whole forearm and twist it to angle the pick back up. So that angle, looking from this way, is down. When you get to the bottom, you take your whole forearm and twist it back the other way. Nothing's happening here with my wrist. Now when you're picking individual notes, I'll give you a little exercise to help you get started. Go to the high E string, and we're going to put our pick straight up and down, perpendicular to that string, and we're just going to do 4 downstrokes. And try using just the very tip of the pick. Now we're going to do down and up strokes, and we're going to go down, up, down, up. And you're going to do the same thing. You're going to keep that pick straight up and down and try to just use the very tip of the pick. Here we go. Down, up, down, up. And you can practice switching between quarter notes, all downstrokes, and eighth notes, the down and up strokes. So let's recap what we've learned today. In order to hold the pick correctly, we want to let our hand naturally come to a semi-closed position where our thumb is on the side of our index finger. We're going to put the pick around the first knuckle of our index finger, and we're going to gently push our thumb on top of it. We want to keep some space between our thumb and our index finger. We don't want to keep it tight like this. We want to leave just enough space of the pick exposed so our index finger doesn't hit the strings. And we don't want to leave too much so we lose control of the pick. When we're picking single notes, our pick is fairly perpendicular or straight up and down. And we use just the tip of the pick. We don't want to put too much of the pick into the guitar. And when we're strumming, we have to angle the pick just a little bit when we're coming down. And when we get to the bottom, we're going to use our whole forearm to change the direction of the pick. And remember, we don't want our 3 fingers that are hanging underneath the pick to be locked to the top of the guitar. We want them to either glide in space above the top of the guitar, or we want them to glide on the actual top of the guitar itself. We don't want to lock it down in position because that it creates tension, and that's what we're trying to avoid. The more relaxed you can hold the pick, the better picker you're going to be. So those are all the basics on how to hold the pick. If this video was helpful, hit that like button down below and don't forget to subscribe so I can help you become a better picker.